Welcome, everybody, to That Kind of Nerds podcast, a weekly show where we break down what's going on in the nerdy world. I am CJ Mellon, joined by Josh Burns and special guest Jeff Thomas.
Oh, hello, everyone. Nice to see and hear you.
Can you see them? Is that something that
I can see
figured out?
you guys.
Okay,
never mind.
German there? What?
It was like a weird combination. The first take was better.
Well, listen, speaking of weird combinations, let's talk about the good people of Loot Crate who are bringing us this week's episode. Loot Crate is a monthly mystery geek and gamer gear box, and you have until the 19th of every month to subscribe to that month's box, and then it's gone forever. It's stuffed to the gills with licensed gamer and nerdy gear. This month, the month of May, their theme is power, and there are exclusive items for Dragon Ball Z. So if you have a geek or a gamer or a nerd or whatever, and it's their birthday, anniversary, or you just love that person so much you want to give them the gift, go to thatkindofnerd.com/loot, and there are some offers for you to get money off. Save money on your Loot Crate. It's amazing. Josh has done it. Jeff has done it. Brian's done it. I'm doing it. It's phenomenal. Go to thatkindofnerd.com/loot. That's LOOT, and check out some amazing deals and offers. Jeff, I'm excited to have you on this week's show.
I'm so happy
your
to be
sultry
here.
Voice.
Oh, well, it's always going to... As long as you ask me nicely, I'll provide my sultry voice. It's always consensual, CJ.
It's very, very
Josh doesn't need consent. He already has it.
It's just on there. So during this week, the coolest thing that I think that was on the internet, we're just going to start off with it, was that first it was images, and then it was a full-blown trailer of Michael Fassbender in Assassin's Creed, the movie. And I am just blown away by this.
Yes.
Normally when I hear about a video game movie, I grab a security blanket, I sit back and forth and rock.
Yeah, you just cringe.
And I'm just like,
and
That's what's called the U-Bowl effect, and he's pretty much out of cinema now, so don't worry. He's not coming back.
I've played, I played plenty of Assassin's Creed, love the games, but I haven't. So I'm the guy, Jeff, that you probably hate. Whenever there's a cutscene or storyline, I skip, or I just, if I can't skip, I just
cutscenes.
If I can't skip, I leave the room until I can come back and there's action. So I actually watching this trailer, I was like, wait a minute. He's not in in the past. He's like in the future. What? Can you please explain?
Explain.
The Assassin's Creed universe. All right, here we go. Quick. We got Assassin's Creed, which basically it takes place relatively in the present. I think it looks like it might be a little bit more futuristic in the movie trailer.
A bit. There's not really that many machines that lift you up and drag you around.
Well, it's hard. Abstergo Industries is going through some budget cuts right now, but the whole point of the game is basically you're following your ancestors' path, and they bring people in and they tap into your genetic sequence, and you're able to relive moments of your ancestors' life. And in the game, obviously, you travel back in time and play as these people. In the trailer, looks like we're going to the Spanish Inquisition. So, Josh, I'm sorry, but the cutscenes are so important for games nowadays because they're movies. Like, think of a game as a huge, big story. It is fun to play, but it's also a lot more cinematic. So,
and the conflict of Assassin's Creed doesn't just come from the history aspect, that there's two fractions that you deal with. There's the Assassins and the Templars. And when you start watching this, you think it's black and white, and then you notice that some of the lines kind of get blurred.
Mm-hmm. There's no real good guy. There's no bad guy. There are some terrible people. But.
I'm opening my eyes wide and looking directly into the FaceTime camera so that you can see them completely glazed over.
Listen, all right, so it's like...
I want you to imagine a child who grew up playing 8-bit NES and then really, really got into video games with the Super Nintendo, and by the time the PlayStation came out, I had already started to scale back and was not playing video games so much anymore. So when all of these movie-type sequences and cutscenes became popular, I had zero patience for them, right? So learning the backstory, just watching this trailer, now I'm like, man, I want to play this game again. Like, I want to go back and do all the things that weren't done before. So, like, I kind of need his it's a line of ancestral, like, badasses.
It follows
or
your DNA. It taps into your ancestry. So effectively what you're trying to do is stop bad things from happening in the present by like reliving the past and understanding what happened in the past, and undermining the bad people of today through the actions of your ancestors, which is really badass. And they call it sequencing, which ties into the DNA.
Imagine if you could too. Right. So, Josh, when you are a little kid and you're learning to ride the bike, right? Wouldn't it just been easier to have just tapped into your adult, grandfather who knew how to ride a bike, and you didn't even have to learn just by watching your grandfather do it? You have now learned how to ride a bike. You
literally lived your grandfather's way of learning, and you just know.
It's like the Matrix meets. I don't know what else to throw at it. Maybe like
almost.
God
What's
of
the movie
War.
where Arnold Schwarzenegger goes back in time? Is that that's not Blade Runner? What is it?
You're talking about Total Recall?
Total Recall.
A little bit like that. A little bit of Total Recall. But here's the thing, Josh. From what we can tell right now, this isn't exactly one-to-one to the game. So Michael Fassbender's character is not the character that you spend all this time with in the video game. It's a new character. It's a new storyline. So it looks amazing, the fact that you don't have to know the game to understand that this is going to be great. And most people, I don't think, are going to know that this is from a video game. They're just going to know this is awesome.
This whole thing is about genetic memory, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, for clarity's sake, are the different Assassin's Creed games different people?
Yes,
or is it the same dude?
The first few had its own storyline built into it throughout one character, but now they've kind of branched off from that and they've done side stories similar to what this movie's trying to do. So it'll fit right in with the games and hopefully be its own entity.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Michael Fassbender. I'm a huge fan of. It's a lot of sci-fi, right? So it's this sort of genre of movie is very cool, and I was sold as soon as I saw the trailer.
It translates so easy to screen too, just based on that 2-minute trailer.
Hardcore action.
If it's done well,
yes.
Unlike, I don't know, Prince of Persia,
or what was it? Not Day of the Dead, the zombie game that you both made,
or Doom.
Or Doom. Oh Jesus, Doom.
So don't worry.
Here's what I do like from watching this overall trailer. Enough is the same that true believers like me and Jeff and Brian are going to rejoice when things happen, but different enough that people like you, Josh, who haven't followed this game are going to be able to watch the movie and just be gripped, and you're going to see a unique storyline that's never been told on film. It looks so cool. The parkour action, all the drama for it looks amazing, and there's going to be this nice blend of sci-fi and old school assassin-like fights. It's going to be just riveting. I can't wait. It comes out, from what I understood too, this year. We're going to get it in December 21st.
Which could these people? Could we request that they tackle Hitman next?
Hitman has dug its grave and then redug its grave.
Oh, but Hitman was such a great game.
Hitman rocked. But you know what? It just doesn't. You can't train. I don't know.
Hitman's had its time 3 times, if I remember correctly.
They tried to resurrect it, and they just keep missing the ball. And maybe it's
twice, right? They've only done it twice, right?
There was Hitman Absolute, or what was it? What's the new one that just came out?
You're gonna make me Google
Agent 47.
Yeah.
So how many Hitman movies are there?
2. There's Timothy Olyphant and Rupert. I don't know his name.
I did enjoy the Oliphant one, but
the guy from Homeland.
Yeah, but that game, I don't know. It puts you. I feel like you're playing the game and understanding a lot that they never even tackled in the movies, and I think they were afraid of getting bad reviews if they did that, which would have made it better.
I mean, now that we've talked about Assassin's Creed and we're all on board, and Jeff, you haven't been on the podcast for a couple months,
a wee little while.
What is your take on the Blizzard movie. What's your take on?
Oh yeah,
This
World
is
of
a tough
Warcraft.
subject for me because
It's not World. It's not World.
No,
It's
just
just
Warcraft.
Warcraft.
It's basically like loosely based on Frozen Throne, right?
No. Warcraft. The movie that's coming out is going to be about the first invasion of Warcraft. So that's basically the start of the storyline. You're going to see a lot of iconic characters from the Blizzard universe. However, I'm kind of teeter-tottering whether or not it's going to be a good film because it's going to attract me. It's going to attract Blizzard fans, but I don't know if it's going to pull in the rest of the audience.
I'm not going to see it. I have no interest in that movie whatsoever.
That game, and again, before the Frozen Throne patch or update or pack, or
Frozen Throne was Warcraft 3. So you had Warcraft 2, and then Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3,
so
Frozen Throne.
Warcraft. Those games were my first real experience in campaign-based PC gaming, and I loved them.
So good.
I just don't. That's the movie that for me doesn't translate at all to the screen because I don't know how you do this giant world.
And you're playing
factions.
in those games. You're playing the commander. You know, like you're overseeing all this stuff. Sort of,
like unless you're Peter Jackson, with all of New Zealand and Middle Earth at your command, you can't possibly.
And I feel like that's the trap they're falling into. It almost reminds me of Lord of the Rings, but without any real
story.
Yeah, connection.
Well, so then tying back to Assassin's Creed, this was a pretty expansive universe. And I understand that most of these events take place in a city, in a time, in one country,
right?
Or whatever, there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables up in the air. Like, how could they possibly get this right?
Well, let's talk about the staples. The staples of Assassin's Creed are you run into random famous people from history. You run into like Leonardo da Vinci, all these famous people. So that needs to be in there. There need to be a lot of very interesting side characters, really well-developed side characters too. And then some badass action. Those are the three things that I think will just make this movie successful.
They've got badass action covered.
Yeah, right. I mean, just from the trailer alone, we can see the action's great. But if they can actually tie that all together and make it relevant to history, I think that'll be badass.
And that's the part, they take a different view of history. So the fact that something that we just take for common knowledge, that, Da Vinci made a flying machine, right? And that was it. He drafted it. And then in Assassin's Creed, you build the damn thing and you explore it and you kind of talk about it. And it never really pans out in history's mind, but you get to see it. So sometimes you get to embellish a little bit on history, which is, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It was funny when you brought up Warcraft, though. I was seeing Civil War with Brian, and he looked at me and goes, "This score," and this is so funny that Brian said this, not me. "This score makes no sense for this trailer.
Yep.
Shouldn't you have something more like Lord of the Rings, more epic music instead of like this dubstep stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then I realized for a split second, Brian shared my brain.
No.
Brian shared my brain.
Wanting the score to match up with what's happening on screen and the story is not the same as worrying about whether it's a full cup or an empty cup. It's not the same thing. The rest of us don't care whether Lorelai and her annoying daughter have full cups of coffee.
I'm just going to say for the record, if you just put a little bit of water, you can't ruin anything with water. Anyway, let's talk about something that we're going to do. Listen, show massive restraint because we're still going spoiler free for Captain America Civil War. I just want to talk about some of the box office success for this movie.
We're not going to talk about how Wolverine died.
Yeah,
don't talk about that at all.
All right.
That was a hard part for me.
The worst part for me, never mind. Let's just move on. My joke is
your joke wouldn't play now, CJ. We've done it already.
But everyone knows 20th Century Fox won't give that character away. Ha ha!
So Captain America Civil War, I love the movie, and again, we're not going to talk about it, but just the sheer numbers of this is another money monster for Disney here. Josh, what was the opening weekend or its current gross, essentially, for this movie?
Well, the current gross is $795 million as of this morning. And again, that's 7 days in the box office. Today is day 8, obviously. To give you context, the overseas total for other comic book movies, just overseas, right?
Right.
The Dark Knight Rises, the whole time it was in the theater, did $636 million. Iron Man 3, $806. The Avengers did $896. Age of Ultron 946. Now, that's just overseas. Okay? So far, this film is 564 million overseas and 795 worldwide, because the released later in China and
China. Yeah, I think China had 124 million.
That's a lot of money.
China.
That's
You've got a different figure.
Disney's rolling. Disney's rolling in the money.
Whatever.
It's going to cross 800 million before I finish this sentence, right?
Well, Jungle Book, right?
But it also,
yeah.
like when you look at Disney's other big movies, like Maleficent did 758 million, and Alice in Wonderland was just over $1 billion. And Jungle Book right now is up there as well. So I mean, they're raking in the moolah a little bit, but this movie, after 7 days, is an absolute monster. Now, I know it didn't open up as big as another movie very recently, CJ.
It did not. Batman versus Superman had a bigger opening weekend domestically, I think by $2 million. I think it was 27.
We're not going to get into it, Jeff, because I haven't seen it yet.
25 and imagine if you would have seen it, Josh. That figure just goes up for BVS just by your
Just goes
power.
up
Oh
from
wait,
there.
Josh Burns. Josh Burns
Your
already
ticket
sold
price
it.
would be halved because you'd probably leave halfway.
But I'll say this: BVS did have a bigger opening weekend than Captain America: Civil War. However, as we just talked about, there's a huge drop off with BVS, and Civil War is just picking it up. It's just proof that this movie is going to do so well. People care about the Marvel universe. And people want to see this. Something that wasn't on our topic list, so I'm sorry for throwing it out to you, is that ABC did cancel, though, Agent Carter.
I think it ties in nicely. Honestly, I don't want to spoil anything from the movie, but it ties in nicely with what was done.
Well, the thing is that fans have come to Netflix and has said, hey, any possibility we can get Agent Carter back on the air? So there's still hope for that. So we'll see some things come down the pipeline. Hopefully, Agent Carter can continue to kind of get a second life in Netflix instead of being canceled here on ABC. The best part about all the numbers that we're talking about here, when we strip this away and we look at all the money that Disney's making, we're seeing two things, in my opinion. Number one is that people are caring about the stories and they're caring about the nerd culture. And as we've talked about, it's so accepting and so easy for people to come into. Regardless of my feelings for Batman versus Superman, I'm very glad that people at least came and saw that story and saw that experience. So I'm very excited for what's to come there. Now, one thing that was absent from Captain America: Civil War, which some people were kind of asking about, was we noticed that there was no Nick Fury. So some people were like, hey, what's going on with that? And they said that basically the decision was made that adding someone as polarizing as Nick Fury could be in that group, a man who put everyone together, that is like a parent figure for the Avengers, letting that crumble and having to put him into a position of, is the government good? Is the government bad? Is Tony Stark going bad? Is not where we want to put him. And someone said, well, what's the likelihood that he'll be coming into the new Avengers Infinity War or whatever new movie? And they say, listen, I think it's going to be an all hands on deck situation. So, the reason Nick Fury wasn't in this is because we didn't want to put more friction between the Avengers. We wanted to be between the superheroes, the two main ones. And B, we really want, when he shows up, we want it to be important with Infinity Wars. Did any of you notice or care that he wasn't in that movie without going too far into it?
Nah, he couldn't take sides.
Right.
So.
He's the parent figure, he's the guy who comes in and says, maybe he's the one in the next movie that comes and fixes a lot of the stuff that was broken,
Well, some people brought it up. It's not really spoilerish, but basically what I want to say is people are going to be interested in this storyline and they wanted to make it important when Nick Fury shows up. So Mark my words, apparently it'll be an all hands on deck situation. So that'd be great. Let's talk about one more piece of cape news and comic news, essentially, when it comes to television, and that is our favorite show out there, which Brian has defended several times. Supergirl has been renewed for a second season. However, it is not going to be on CBS. It is coming to the CW.
Hell yeah, all for it. With that crossover, can't argue. Crossover with the Flash was the best thing ever. Best episode of the season, hands down.
And I'm wondering again. This is so funny, as because Brian said it as well before. CW has said that they don't want to see themselves as the DC channel. Well, I think they've just embraced it.
Please, that gives them so much
something...
revenue. Of course, they want to see themselves as that.
It's very true. Now, Josh, you've been just like me. You've been rather critical of this show. Do you think having it join the CW is going to save it all or make you want to watch it?
I mean, not unless the folks that are doing Flash and Arrow take it over and completely redo it. No.
Well, I think their hands are in it already.
Are they?
I don't think it's.
Are they writing it?
I think they will. I'm trying to see.
I'll take the writers from the Flash, but we'll let Arrow writers stay where they are.
I actually like Arrow better.
Man,
really?
Yeah.
I have not. I fell off the Arrow bandwagon this season.
Well, I normally like to watch my soap operas in the middle of the day, so I tend not to like to watch it primetime. So that's why I stopped watching Arrow.
Oh man. Wow.
Oh, I'm scathing.
Well, next. You pulled no punches. I don't even know how to react. So Josh, let's say hypothetically, just again, I have no proof of this, so don't take this as any kind of canon. The people behind Flash and Arrow do pour into this a little more. Would you watch the first season to get ready for a second season?
Oh, in that case, no. I mean, not no, but hell no. No.
You're just going to pick up on season 2 and figure out the blanks?
No, I'm not going to watch season 2 either. This is a dumb show.
If the people from Flash and Arrow do start ready for Supergirl, you're not going to watch it?
Nothing to do with Supergirl.
Okay.
But why is the question? Do you just not care about Supergirl?
Because they basically turned her into an insecure mess.
I do agree that a lot of the writing is mainly just there to, I don't know. It makes what's-her-face, the Ally McBeal character, it makes her seem like this big badass. And I'm like, I don't understand where the story is going. Just show me Martian Manhunter, show me Supergirl.
Yeah, she can't even convincingly sell that there's coffee in her cup. Why would I? Why would I bother watching?
The later episodes are good.
For those playing the home game, real quick, I posted a video on my Facebook. I found it online, I should say, because that makes it sound like I made this thing.
You made it.
I did not. I found a guy who has the same issue with continuity as I do, and his big continuity issue is empty coffee cups in TV and film. And
because he's a Starbucks barista.
I tagged Josh and Brian. I was like, welcome into my world. And at first, Josh was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. And then he realized the entire video is about empty coffee cups. And rage ensued as to why the fuck would you give a shit about that? Sorry, Papa Thornton. My bad. Why would you care about coffee cups?
You wouldn't. You would just...
But you do.
You would just suspend your disbelief for a moment and go, you know what? I don't... This coffee cup is completely insignificant. Unless it's going to be thrown in someone's face, it means nothing, and I don't care what they're doing with it. I don't care about that piece of it. And as far as Supergirl is concerned,
it's a prop.
I'm not interested. Everything I've seen about this show just takes me in a direction where I don't want to waste my time on it.
Well, I hope against hope that the good people of Flash and Arrow will start sprinkling their DC goodness onto Supergirl and save it.
The only thing that's going to save it is a ton of crossover. Yep. And
they have to make the multiverse.
I think they'll do that.
Of course they'll do that, but that doesn't make it more interesting to me. It's just, it's actually taking away from Flash and Arrow. If you involve her in what's going on,
then make a crossover show, make a
world.
Justice League show. That's what I would like to see. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do that,
it's never that's
like not
that
a full Justice League, but maybe
happen.
all the characters we know. Maybe make us like Legends of Tomorrow almost.
Legends of Tomorrow is filled with characters that nobody knows. That's why they got to wait.
Yeah, I still haven't watched a single episode of that.
It's so good. All right. Let's take a break from Cape Talk and comic book movies and TV shows and that nerdy stuff, and let's breathe for a minute. And since we have Jeff, the gaming expert, I did want to give him some time because some people have asked for us for some gaming news. So why don't you give us a little down low as to what's going on in the gaming world right now, Jeff?
What I've compiled here are some games that are coming out or have just come out. Actually, when we're recording today, Bethesda's Doom launched. I had written an article about it. But yeah, great summer lineup. Here's a few big titles to look forward to, and some little expansions that are on titles that we already know and love. First off, obviously Doom just released today. You know, we're talking about old games with, you know, like some of the stuff Josh played earlier, but like, you got Doom as like the quintessential first person shooter. I'm sure we've all played it. Hopefully, if you haven't,
if
you haven't, please
started
do.
all besides Wolfenstein.
And now it's full 3D. Obviously, you got Bethesda leading the way, and I'm still waiting to play it myself. But I did get to mess around in the beta, so I had a lot of fun with it. Also coming up, we have a Witcher 3 expansion, which is great. That's coming out in May. Mirror's Edge, a sequel to a great game that is going to be June, I believe. 1 second, let me just double check here. June 7th.
While you're looking that up, June 7th, highly underrated game. Mirror's Edge is stunningly, just gorgeous. The design of that game is amazing. The artwork's phenomenal. And then the concept of no attacking, no fighting, no shooting. The way that you kind of escape everything is through parkour action. It's so original. I'm so
done
glad
in like
that they
this
made a sequel.
first person, really badass. It's all fast paced gameplay, but you're never actually having to like fight anybody or like do the standard gun shooting stuff.
That was another game I played for like a half hour and went.
You're just a chick who can parkour real good. That's all you got. That's the story. That's the story. And don't get hit by any bullets. Also in June, you got.
That's a good life advice, by the way. Don't get hit by any bullets.
Super skates, and you can skate up the sides of buildings and not have any laws of physics apply to you. Then, that's easier to do, right? you can not get shot easier. But yeah, so No Man's Sky, another huge title coming out in June. This is the game we talked about. I think we talked about it briefly before, where you have like the quintillion universes of different planets and all that.
It's a game that may make me buy a PlayStation.
Yep. And it's on PC, so I'll probably not buy a PlayStation. But I am excited to see what they do with it and all the multiplayer aspects that they could release with it. Let's see what else we got here. We have Deus Ex, sequel to Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which comes out in August. This is sort of jumping a little bit. But the Deus Ex franchise has been a staple of console gaming, and I believe it was released on PC. Fight for Mankind Survival. And if you know the series, I'm not going to get too much into it, but you're going to pick up right with Adam Jensen and pick up where we left off. So those are the big gaming titles that I saw. And one last one, Overwatch, released on the 24th of this month. 24th, rather.
Brian will not shut up about Overwatch. He got into the beta, which
oh my god, I was in the closed now. Oh my god, I'm so unhappy that they closed it, but and it was so good.
He is raving about it on how great that game looks. So, Jeff, with everything going on right now, you just read a laundry list, which we'll have in the show notes for our gamer friends. Don't worry, didn't forget about you. What is your most anticipated thing coming out within the next couple months?
Overwatch is going to be huge, and people are going to play it nonstop. I feel I'm going to play it. All my friends have been playing it for the last couple weeks. Now that we've all been in the open beta. I'm also really, really excited to see a Mirror's Edge sequel. And we're going to mess around with Doom too. So a little bit of everything. You got first person shooters. You have a lot of fast paced action, not a whole lot of RPG except for the Witcher expansion, but, it's going to be a good summer. We're going to have a lot to play.
So, fellow gaming nerds, I do want to say one thing. Some of you have been asking for some gaming news, and if there's something you want us to talk about, if there's a topic, there's a game, there's something that you want us to get at, just email Jeff. You can just email Jeff at jeff@thatkindofnerd. Tell him, hey, listen, I really want to hear what you think about this game. We'll write something up, we'll put them on a podcast, and we'll have it here in your ears in the car, so this way you can actually get
They'll hit me with the cat and nine until I get it done.
So thank you, Jeff, for the quick rundown for the gaming world and the gaming news going on. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing some some other articles coming through. I can't wait to see what Overwatch. It's
going to be huge.
I mean, that game looks pretty awesome. So I like to kind of resurrect something that we've talked about a couple times before. We've talked about several consoles that aim to take some of that old school gaming and bring it into 2016. We've talked about a few things, but this is by far really one of the coolest ones. There's a company called Retro USB, and they've announced the AVS system, which is an NES that is HDMI ready. It is an NES clone that not only will let you hook it up to an HD TV, but also has the ability to do wireless controllers. Plays a regular Nintendo cartridge, and it's only $185. Josh, what do you think about this product?
Shut up and take my money. I think that it's the answer to everyone who is, sort of 35 plus, who grew up with this system, who just I refuse to hook up an 8-bit system to my beautiful television. I just did it after my daughter's birthday. Because it looks like crap. It really does. It just looks like crap. And, not only that, but you kind of have to sit on the floor, less than 6 feet away from the system if you want to play it. And that's not
why they even thought back then that those cord lengths were a good idea. I don't know. Oh my God.
Well, it was back then you had like a 13-inch TV you were playing it on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Now, at least that,
if you sat back too far, you'd be like,
and a lot of the titles that don't actually work with flat screens on the actual consoles themselves will hopefully work with this. I'm hoping. Because there were a few games, Duck Hunt, all these other things that were not ready for new TVs. You couldn't do that stuff.
Well, that technology still isn't. That's made for CRT. Like I don't
the
think
light laser technology, all that crap.
I was saying I tried to use my gun and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't work."
No, not on a flat panel. It's made for CRT.
Upset.
So probably, Duck Hunt is still you're not going to play it, but the ability to, and there's a lot of these game shops, whether they're big names like GameStop or just mom and pop shops that have a ton of NES titles for sale for pennies on the dollar. You know what I mean? You can buy these things a lot. I mean, you go to a yard sale and you could buy a box of these games for $25.
It's in that standard wood panel case too. You have that wood panel slide out drawers game case. I had that. I still do.
And that's the kind of thing where, if only to introduce Christian to all of the games that I played growing up, I would buy it. Just because it's not that expensive. It's easy to hook up. You hook it up to HDMI and wireless controllers. I mean, my big problem with the new, the next gen consoles, with Xbox One and PlayStation 4, is that the controls are so complex because they're good because they learn your individual style and they can be programmed and all that good stuff. But I just want to turn it on and play. Mm-hmm. And they are so complex that I have completely lost any desire to play games on these next gen
I think
consoles.
That's why we're seeing a resurgence of arcade style games. We have so many extremely popular arcade style games that only require 2 buttons now. You got like Super Meat Boy, you got all these other things for Xbox, PC, any console, PlayStation, that are just old 8-bit style, but with easy controls. That's all you want.
Yeah, like side scrolling. Super simple. That's what I want.
Double Dragon.
You look at the stuff on the Apple TV. That's what it's calling back to. All the games that are coming after that, they're really rooted in NES, Super Nintendo style.
My biggest thing with this though is how does it separate itself from all the other retro gaming consoles? That's when I heard this. That's the one question that came to mind.
I think it's in compatibility.
Okay.
I think that's what does it. I think it's in compatibility.
And the other thing too, that if the design of the product looks like a old school NES too, so not only are they going on the functionality of that,
the aesthetic
going to the design of it.
It doesn't require the use of an emulator, which is not only unreliable, it's in many cases not true to the gameplay.
Yeah. There's a certain value of putting that cartridge in there too.
But there is, and wiggling around and having to blow into it. That's the fun.
That was
stuff.
my first girlfriend.
I just did, man.
I am still.
Did you just say that was your first girlfriend?
Yep. Her name was Sheila. She was beautiful. I still have her.
Oh my god.
I think about having to sit within 6 feet to be able to read It's Dangerous to Go Alone. Take this, and having that up on, 65 inches of Panasonic Beauty and playing it on my VT Plasma and just being thrilled by it, and I will say that in the past 12 months alone, I have replayed the original Legend of Zelda twice, gone through it, beaten Ganon, gone through it again in a Safari window with an emulator that in a Safari window that I never close, because if you close it, you lose your place in the game.
Yep.
As it should be.
That's how it was.
So I didn't ever close this. There was a window on my MacBook Air open for probably 6 months. Because anytime I was really bored and had nothing to do whatsoever, I would go back and I would play a few levels, and I can't remember what I need to use a walkthrough so I can get all the hearts. I got to go back and figure it out. That's the kind of thing that I can't introduce Christian to on a MacBook because he'll never understand the controls.
Mm-hmm. It's a tangibility thing. You hold it, you have that cartridge.
Well, it is.
It
needs to be tactile, right? It needs to be tactile. And when it's plugged into your TV and wireless controllers, he gets that. And he's never really played The Legend of Zelda other than on the Wii U, which is a good substitute, but it's still not the same. It's not the same controls. It's not the same thing.
The other thing that this console has, I know people are going to hear $180 some and be like, whoa, not happening. If you have a old school NES hanging around, there's actually another company that came out called Retro Receiver that made a $20 component that plugs into the traditional plug in your NES and then makes it Bluetooth. And then they sell some controllers that are themed, like Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, and a couple other stuff too that you can buy. So for about $40, you can take a original NES and make it wireless.
Let's hold off for a second, because what you're doing is avoiding spending $185 so that you can still see the same.
That's it right there.
The same crappy picture, but get wireless controllers. It's not. It's not enhancing the experience at all.
Yeah, if they're gonna do it, you might as well do the whole console. That's.
If you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly, right? You're gonna be a bear.
Absolutely.
I would like to be a polar bear. Is that not? Ice bear would like to be recognized on the show, please.
Yorick Burnison. We're doing his Dark Materials now. Anyway.
But listen, there are some people who would rather not buy a not Nintendo console, and for $40,
here's what I want. Here's what I want you true believers to do. I want you to take that one game that you have that's worth $200, and I want you to sell it on eBay.
Yeah, Battletoads. It's never happening.
And I want you to buy this console with that $180 whatever dollars.
But then what do I play with?
You're not going to play that game anyway because it's on a shelf in a box, and
it's aging well.
You and two other guys masturbate to it once a week.
Masturbate.
Just thinking about never selling it. You're going to go to the grave with this $200 Battletoads piece of crap on your shelf.
I'm storing it at Brian's house on a high shelf, and I know it's never going to fall unless one of the cats gets after it.
Probably
it's out of reach of the urine, too. The urine's a big deal.
At Brian's house, there are very few cats. The cat-to-male ratio is super low.
It's very true. It's so low. That's why I know it's safe. It's safe up there. Jeff,
although heat rises.
Yes, Josh. The heat rises very often.
The flames rise.
The fire rises. Well, you said
heat rises.
You have to do it like Brian, with no attempt to be Bane
It's just his voice with his hands.
You just cup your hands.
So the heat rising could have an adverse effect on your Battletoads.
Also, I don't know if I would like to blow into a cartridge with cat urine dust coming back into my face.
I'm sorry, but never mind. I'm not going to get into why there's urine and dust.
Listen, it's been sitting there for a while.
With all these ways to watch, to play old games and things like that, is honestly, Josh, though, do you think this is something you're going to put into your house?
If this isn't one of those things that people talk about for a week and then it never actually happens,
Right, that last one that we talked about, and then the next week we're like, hey, it's gone.
right? No, then no. But if this is actually a thing, $185, as far as I'm concerned, is a small price to pay for me to relive that portion of my youth. Right? You're talking about like the happiest, like some of the happiest memories of your life happen between that sort of, 8 to 10, 11 years old, and you and your friends huddled in front, 6 feet in front of the TV, because that's how far the controllers would go, and elbowing each other while you're playing Rad Racer or Excite Bike.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff that's pure childhood, right? There's nothing but happiness there. So yeah, it's something that I would absolutely invest in.
Here's the thing I forgot to mention about this too. This console, built into it, is a game genie.
Oh, you got all the codes.
You don't have to. Well, in the sense that once you plug it in, it also gets the Game Genie adapter, so you don't have to buy a Game Genie. That's one of the things that sets this console apart. Just like you said, Josh, this isn't an emulator. This is a legit kind of guts of reading the cartridge, and it has that built into it. So,
well, kind of two things. If you have to use a Game Genie, you probably shouldn't be playing the game.
Oh, them's fighting words.
Unless we're talking,
that's like old school Dark Souls talk right there.
unless we're talking about Mega Man 3, which was impossible.
I would say and Battletoads. You can't save your game, so sometimes when you just want to play one level, don't you just want to cheat and go right to that level?
No, man.
You gotta get there. Get there. You know what? That speeder level in Battletoads, you gotta get by it, or else you're never gonna beat it.
I wasn't using the Contra code. I wasn't using the Punch Out code. I learned how to beat Mike Tyson on my own.
You know what, too? It's not like today where, this is a full game, and especially, Josh, with families. Like your family, you can sit down with your family and do this kind of stuff. Like I personally might not get this, but that's because I don't have kids. If I had kids,
the way that I look at new gaming is this is an incredibly siloed individual experience. New gaming, while it is in many cases massively multiplayer and whatever, you're basically a bunch of dudes by yourself in a room.
Yeah, what kind of weirdos would do that?
Old school Nintendo, 8-bit, just you, Jeff. And here's, for those of you who don't know Jeff, and I know he's been on here a bunch, and I've already extolled all his virtues. The thing about Jeff is probably the most social dude I know and hang out with. And he is also this very
Raid Leader
gamer
is the actual title.
That.
Josh, Raid Leader.
But when you think about old school gaming, you think about a bunch of people huddled around a console, tournament style, fighting each other for the chance to win. And that's what I really want to introduce Christian to, because I already see him very siloed playing these games by himself, and there's not a ton of interaction. And even if there was, it would be online, and I don't want that for him. I want him to get into it. I want him to catch an elbow to the face once every so often.
If your friend's gonna make fun of your mother, you better do it after she made you Tostino's pizza rolls.
Right, and burn the shit out of the roof of your mouth.
Right,
I'm not going to wait for the bagel bites to cool. Nobody waits for the bagel bites to cool down.
They're only hot for like 45 seconds after they come out, so it's like...
CJ, why are there pancakes in the spatula drawer? You mean why are there spatulas in the pancake drawer?
What's up?
Look, gaming is about camaraderie. It's about a bunch of people in a room having fun, socializing. Right? When I was a kid, sleepovers and tournaments and
LAN parties. Actually, the guy who just moved in with me, we had a huge LAN party for his 16th birthday. It was the best time of my life. One of my best memories.
So I think Josh is right. This is harken back to the way that gaming used to be.
A simpler time, CJ.
Very true. And you know what? This is great because just like Josh said, you can go buy these games for literally a dime a dozen. And then for $185, you've got it all set up, and it's HD ready, so it's on your screen and it's good to go.
Those of you who live in certainly really anywhere in the Northeast, this time of year, there are yard sales, flea markets. There are a ton of places you can go and procure these games for nothing. For nothing. And even if you bought a lot, and I don't mean like a large quantity, I mean a lot of games, like a box of games for $5, and a few of them don't work, you pitch them because essentially they cost you 50 cents or whatever they cost you.
Or you can hang them on your wall and they look cool.
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's right. It would make. I got to make because my Mario 2 is all shit.
Well, Mario 2 you could just throw away. That game.
Yeah.
Mario 2 is the devil.
Very true. So I think this is something worthwhile. I want you guys, the listeners, yes, you stopped at the red light. There's someone stopped at a red light. I know it's you. Go to the show notes. Go check out the link to this. Go look at the AVS from Retro USB. Tell us your thoughts on it.
You know what? Fucker? It's
going
to be me stopped at that red light, and I'm going to be angry that you said it.
Will you please tweet if that happens? Will you make that? I just want to see the rage happen when that occurs.
Hashtag Jersey traffic. Hashtag angry.
All right, so for those listeners who maybe are not aware, we are going to talk about some Game of Thrones. But what we're going to do is we're going to save you, who are, again, a select few, who are not current with Game of Thrones, who haven't watched it. Now, Josh has explained, again, this is not the episode that aired on the wow.
So let me. Why don't you give me?
Please. So why don't you, Josh?
Those of you. CJ's drunk. You're drunk, CJ. Go home. So those of you who listen faithfully Monday when this thing drops, this is not yesterday's episode. This is from 8 days ago. So we're going to discuss a bit episode 3, titled Oathbreaker.
And here's what I want you, the fans, to do. I want you to call in for the episode that is coming up, all right? Because we're going to talk about last week's episode, and we would like to hear what just happened for it. So leave your comments, so this way you are basically ready to talk about the next episode with us, which would be episode 4. So leave your comments as to what you thought about it. We'll talk about it on the air. I want to thank the people who are going to tune out right now and go away from us, and that's okay. I want to thank you guys very much for making us your walk around the neighborhood or your drive to work. There's, again, a couple ways that you can go ahead and show support for the show. First thing, you can give us a call, right? Call 484-373-4119. That is our podcast line where you can leave a comment. You can tell us about what you think about the show. As a pro tip, you get 3 minutes on that voicemail and it cuts you off. So just be mindful of your time on that. You can also get us at Facebook at facebook.com/thatkindofnerd, Twitter at thatkindofnerd. And we do a pre-show banter every week at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on Fridays for the episode. So come and join us and come join in the live conversation and get a little pre-show banter. I think it's hilarious. So for those of you who are not ready to brave the Game of Thrones, we will give you a minute. But Josh did want to take a quick second to talk about some fan feedback that he's received. So I'm going to turn it over to the man over here and let him speak his piece.
Yeah, one thing. We've gotten several requests, CJ, for fantasy football talk or whatever content, and I will say I'm not sure that this podcast is the right medium for that, because you and Brian just aren't going to get into that conversation.
Remember that glazy eyes that
yeah, the glazed over eyes. However, we've had the requests happen on Facebook and on the site, and people talking to us in person. So here's what I would like to do. If you don't know, as far as being that kind of nerd, fantasy football runs my life pretty much year round. I mean, I've been deep into dynasty leagues. I've been crazy into football since March. So it's May. Football doesn't start really till September, essentially. So I'm saying this: if you want to interact with me, if you want to shoot questions, if you want my opinion, if I'll offer you advice and follow at your own risk. But
let me just tell you, he gives good advice. I won.
Jeff won a league based on my advice, and Jeff knows not of the footballs. So
I clicked the box and he told me what to type in it.
So here's I created a second Twitter handle because my normal Twitter feed was so saturated with fantasy football stuff. I had to separate it. So you can tweet questions to me at dynasty_nerd. Or you.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Thank you. Or you can not affiliated with the Dynasty Nerds website. They run a good site, but I'm not affiliated. Dynasty_nerd. That's me. And you can tweet at me there. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can send questions to Josh at thatkindofnerd.com. And I will record when I get questions. I will record a separate segment that week that we will post online, publish on Facebook, and I'll share it out. I'll share the link on Twitter as well as tweeting back at you. But if you want any sort of interaction, opinion, advice, get at me at dynasty_nerd on Twitter or Josh at thatkindofnerd.com.
All right, so that is the end of this part of the show. We're going to get ready to talk about Game of Thrones and go to Westeros. So if you give us just one moment, you have yourself a wonderful day, and stick around, and we're going to talk about some Game of Thrones. All right, if you have survived long enough here in the podcast realm, you would now know that it is time for Game of Thrones. So let's head over to Westeros and let's get the party started. Let's talk about
Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage.
That cat. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make the cat the intro music to this segment every time.
The cat is phenomenal. But let me share a story. So we, Laura and I, were watching Game of Thrones. This is probably, season 1. As far as I can remember, it was season 1. It might have been episode 2 or 3 of season 1. We're watching it, and the theme music plays, and I watch. I look over at Laura, and she's sort of doing this nodding thing with her head, and I said to her, "Are you riding a horse right now?" And she wait. Laura says, "Oh, you do that too?" I go, "No, I don't do that."
You do that too?
No, I don't do that.
And then he's like, "I ride a dragon." Duh.
The thing is that the music has this. It has this gait. It has this gait and this cadence that sort of reminds you, right, of that. But I looked over at Laura, and she's sort of riding the pony. She's moving her head a little bit. And are you riding a horse right now? She goes, "Oh, you too?" No, I don't ride a horse. It's a theme song. I don't ride a horse.
You do that too.
Oh, it was
no, Laura.
It was
nobody does that. That's just you.
It was super adorable and very endearing, and one of those things about my wife that I absolutely love. But it reminded me that the cat and the theme song always just remind me of that original memory. And it's just always something that I think of every time the theme song comes on,
and it gets you so hype.
I look out of the corner of my eye at Laura just to see if she still does it, and I think I can see her making an effort not to do it, basically. But it's it's just one of those things it's funny to me. All right.
Let's talk about Oathbreaker.
Season 6, episode 3, Oathbreaker. Now, this episode, their Oathbreaker goes throughout the entire show. They're doing an amazing job of tying stories together without really telling people they're tying stories together. So I have all of my crazy fan theory and all of my stuff, CJ, my observations, but I would love to hear sort of what you guys thought of the episode.
For me, it's one thing that I really like is that since we caught up to the books, right, there's so much ahead of us that we don't know what's coming yet, and neither does George R.R. Martin either. But what I do love, and what I liked about this episode, was going into the past.
Yes.
And there's so much history in the Game of Thrones universe. Seeing this brought out, I think, is the next adventure that if we aren't 100% sure as to where the future is going, at least know that the past is so open, and the universe is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's starting to rival that of Lord of the Rings. So I was very excited to see what we're doing in the past. And everything going on there.
The lore is so deep. Like you have like that scene with the tower, Tower of Joy, if I'm not
Tower of Joy, yeah. Sir Arthur Dane and
amazing moment. One of my favorite parts of the episode, and it was a great way to see that character who you see in the books. Yeah, and like I don't know if he dual wields in the books. I think he just has one sword. But like to see Ned Stark and him battle, like that was perfect, and to see the end outcome, it was great.
Well, I mean, and I think that. When you think about Oathbreaker, you have to think it's the name that Jaime Lannister gave the Valyrian steel sword, right? There's that,
right.
So there's that component. But the thing that Bran said was, I remember hearing this story. My father beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the three-eyed crow said, did he? And then you think, well, Ned Stark kind of lied, right? So Oathbreaker again, right? Because Ned Stark being
most
the
loyal
most
kind of figure,
the most honorable man in this series, right? And did he kill Sir Arthur Dane? Yes, he did. Had he already been stabbed in the back? Yes, he was. So there's that, right? There's that Oathbreaker theme there. If you fast,
but even the oath of being honorable to not kill a man who's been stabbed in the back is still. Strong enough.
Well, I'm sure in war there really are no oaths. There are some cool things.
And this was right after that major battle. I forget the name of it.
The war is over.
It's
not.
It's done. It's not done. This guy is still loyal to another king.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So at this point, Robert Baratheon is a usurper.
True.
So
but you saw that respect
piece
too,
of it, right?
The respect of Ned Stark. That was beautiful.
That scene, Jeff. That scene was amazing. And there's an Easter egg, right? He says something like, I wish you luck in future. I wish you good fortune is what he says. The same words that Mance Rayder said to Stannis Baratheon.
If that gif of all the people bouncing back going,
inside your head,
like if I could have that right now, that'd be great.
So there's that was something, but that wasn't the only little Easter egg, right? There was Tommen saying, I'm the king. I should have been able, I took an oath to protect the people, and I can't even protect my mother and wife. Joffrey Baratheon said the same thing to his grandfather, I'm the king. And Tywin said, a man who has to say I'm the king is no true king.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did.
This is a crazy type. They're doing such a good job,
it's a beautiful
CJ.
thing.
Yep. No, I understand.
I actually, after the show's over, if I'm still in my condition 4 hours later, I have to go to the ER. So it's, but wait, there's more, right? So, Daenerys Targaryen,
yes,
took an oath when she married Khal Drogo, and she left. She broke her oath. There's this theme.
Then you get to the wall, and there's some oath breakers that are hung.
Look, this show did such a good job of highlighting this theme throughout every single piece of the story. Arya, same idea, right?
Yes.
She denies her true self, right? Several times. I don't know if it's 3 because that would have other
numerology.
Getting into all that, but yeah, right. But she denies her true self and becomes no one.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
Right? You have a Kingsguard story, right? The beginning of the episode with Jaime Lannister basically saying this is, the gods kill more people than anyone.
Right.
Again, just another layer. The season has been so good.
Well, and you have not Pycelle. What the heck is the
Qyburn, the Master of Whispers?
Yeah. So that's another one. That's another broken oath.
Well, no,
he's not a maester.
Well, he got excommunicated basically from the Citadel.
But I'm sure making the Frankenstein Knight's Guard is against some oath somewhere.
Some sort of oath, right?
Yeah.
Although he's currently my favorite character. The Mountainstein. Yeah.
Mountainstein.
So here's some crazy stuff I read online. I can't give attribution, so I will say it's not my theory at all, although it makes a great deal of sense. So we've seen Jojen Reed last season, who died, right? And Jojen Reed was a green seer, which basically means he has visions. He can see the future. He can see into the past. He can see how all things are tied together. And then you have Bran Stark, who is a skin changer, a warg, who can, go into the consciousness of other beings, animals, and people alike, and sort of assume, take over them, basically, piloting them around. But he's got this gift where he is a green seer and a warg, two things that are incredibly rare and almost never together, and he's both.
Right.
So here's a crazy bit of fan theory I read. The three-eyed crow is Bran Stark many years from now.
I can see that.
I can see that.
Because he's in the tree.
Instead of being the old man in the tree.
So he actually, that's however many years in the future, and that this is him now, right? So but here's the other crazy fan theory shit I read. Bran Stark, he goes back to the Tower of Joy and he says, "Father," and Ned Stark turns around confused, right?
He notices.
Right.
Bran Stark, the theory is Bran Stark goes back to Aegon Targaryen and he tries to convince him that what he's doing is wrong. But Aegon only hears it as whispers.
Oh my God, he makes the Mad King.
And goes crazy.
So
oh my God.
type of thing.
And Bran sets everything in motion.
Do it.
Having
Please
already
do it.
in episode 1 set all this in motion by catching the Targaryens.
Yeah.
So Bran Stark may very well be the genesis of all of the madness.
He's the inciting incident. Holy
I just
crap.
got goosebumps. I got goosebumps.
Listen, if that's not so, okay. So George R. R. Martin has also said he's okay with someone taking over the books and finishing it. Find whoever made that theory and go write your book.
I read a ton. I read a ton of
so good
of the wiki, of the fan theory, and a lot of it is just crazy out there. People taking risks to try to be right, and that's cool. But this one, I mean, there's some people out there that really follow the storyline, really get into the character.
Well, and you hear the old man in the tree tell him, it's like, listen, you will never leave if you interfere too much. And I think that's a perfect fucking tie into that. It's beautiful.
Can I just say one thing that's happened consistently throughout the show, and it's going to happen again, and I'm going to throw raviolis at my television set.
Are they preheated or not heated?
Oh, they're heated.
Oh, okay.
Please.
All right. That's an extra
They're my
step.
celebration
Extra
raviolis
step.
that if it happens, I'll eat them, but if not, I'm throwing them out at my television set. If Jon Snow and Sansa Stark miss each other on the way to the wall, from the wall, and Sansa shows up and she has to deal with being at the wall, and she just missed Jon, like every freaking Neil Simon play I've ever read.
Look,
I'm going to go crazy.
I told you, I don't think Sansa makes it out of this season. I don't.
I think she's going to take down. I don't know. I don't want to put that out there.
I think Ramsay's going to die badly, but it's certainly not going to be at her hands.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
But there's tie-ins all through here. You know, Jon Snow, he hung these 4 traitors.
That hurt.
What do you think about Rickon though? That's another question.
That's the
Rickon. I thought that Shaggy Dog's head being cut off was a terrible omen for Rickon. I think that the Stark children in many ways are very much tied to their direwolf.
Yep.
every time one dies, Jenny cries. I'm not kidding you.
And look,
I want more direwolves.
So hold on, wait. Can we confirm the active counts? We got Ghost and we got Arya's
And
out there. somewhere,
Nymeria.
right? Well, didn't Arya's go out?
Nymeria.
Nymeria.
So
it.
Nymeria we assume is out there somewhere. However, Arya is in Bravos and Nymeria certainly is not.
Nymeria
Certainly in there.
leads
Yep,
a
nope.
pack, or she leads a pack of wolves, and then that's part of how Catelyn's found.
Well,
something.
in the book, Nymeria does, and Bran actually ends
Is that a
up.
spoiler? Should I have spoiler tag that?
No, I think if
If you're listening to this part of the podcast, you don't care.
So,
Go ahead.
Bran has his wolf, and he takes over, and I don't know why I can't remember the name of Bran's wolf. It's super important, but I can't.
Is it Grey? No, Grey Wind was Rob.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up right now.
But, Bran takes over his wolf and sort of goes out on the hunt, and that's how he really develops into a skin changer. And he never, that I can recall... Summer, thank you. Never runs into Nymeria, but there's hints of a familiar scent, a familiar sight, and you hope that they cross paths again, and you hope that they can reconnect. But I think that eventually the tie between Jon and Ghost, I think, is incredibly strong. And
strong.
Jeff, I don't know if you heard what I said last week, but I don't think that Melisandre had anything to do with Jon. I think that Jon's spirit was in Ghost and then restored to Jon. I think that maybe Melisandre was a conduit of sorts to transfer the spirit, but again, I think that the Stark children, whether or not Jon is a true Stark, he was raised a Stark, and I think that his adopting the Stark mentality and the nobility and honor makes him a Stark at the very least in his soul.
And also, if you want to go the more like godlike way,
the old gods, right? How the North is tied to the gods would, and how everything flows through that sort of. And I'm not I'm not a big mystic as far as that's concerned, but I don't always buy into that, but I do think that there's something to be said about man and nature that the North has harnessed that the rest of the Seven Kingdoms have not. So I'm very excited to see what happens through the rest of this episode, and if I can wrap it up in any way, it's really just to talk back to how well they're tying together the themes of these episodes and how they're again staying more in line with the storytelling of the books than they ever have, where you only see you only see the character for one segment, but it's really building to something greater.
And I do want to note, I forgot one that we were talking about Oathbreakers. Sam broke his oath about not going separate ways and always staying with.
Oh, true.
And also essentially adopting a child.
Right, yeah, the Night's Watch
and
stuff,
getting it on with Gil.
But that happened previously, okay? We're talking about this week's episode. You broke an oath.
Let me say that the Sam and Gilly thing, when they were doing the things and Sam went, "Oh my," I thought that was hilarious. I thought that's awesome.
So again, as always, I know we are an episode behind every time we release it, which means two episodes behind, which means we want to hear you in the most recent episode that has aired. We want to hear your thoughts, your theories, so we can react to them. So that way you can do that. So as I said before, there's an easy way to do that. It's call 484-373-4119. Get at us at Twitter at That Kind of Nerd. Email your thoughts at GOT@thatkindofnerd.com. That stands for Game of Thrones.